The chemical composition of saline lakes of the northern Great Plains and western Canada. These areas have an estimated 3.5 million lakes and another 6 to 8 million sloughs, most of which are saline or hypersaline. These lakes show a tremendous diversity in size, basin morphology, hydrology, hydrochemistry, and sedimentary and biological characteristics. In this water-stressed region of North America, any changes in lake salinity or chemistry are of major concern to the environmental manager. This means that lakes contained on continents such as North America are salt lakes. From the standpoint of salt lake geochemistry, the two most important physical features of the region are the high evaporation to precipitation ratios and the presence of large areas of endorheic drainage. Although the mean annual temperature of -3 degrees Celsius would imply relatively low evaporation rates, the high winds, low humidity, and warm summer temperatures create evaporation precipitation values of generally between 3 and 10. The saline nature of the surface waters and associated lake deposits of the northern Great Plains were well known to local Aboriginal groups at the time of European expansion and settlement in the region during the mid-19th century. Although the first chemical analysis of salt lake waters from this region was published in the 1890s, it was not until nearly half a century later that the full extent and degree of diversity of the salt lakes were recognized. For over 30 years after the 1890s, the only scientific efforts and data on these lakes came from the 1890s, and the economic geologists interested in exploitable reserves of initially nitrate salts and later sodium and magnesium salts in the lakes. Indeed, the results of a regional survey of these economic deposits still ranks as one of the best and most extensive summaries of the salt lake hydrogeochemistry. Even though most of the lakes in the Great Plains of Western Canada have similar overall origins, nonetheless the waters show considered diversity in terms ionic composition and concentration. The early investigators emphasized a strong predominance of Na and SO4 in the lakes. But they also recognized sodium, magnesium, and sulfate components in the perennial lakes of Saskatchewan, and a broad spectrum of water types on the basis of ionic ratios. It is hardly surprising that the lake waters of northern Great Plains show such a considerable range in ionic composition and concentration, considering the enormous geographic area and the varying hydrologic, geomorphic, and climatic settings. With such a vast range of salinities, it follows that the concentrations of the individual ionic components also vary greatly. The frequency distributions of magnesium, sodium, chlorine, and sulfur oxide 4 concentrations in the lake waters tend to be multimodal as opposed to the calcium and HCO3 ions, which show a much narrower distribution pattern. Sulfate and carbonate-rich lakes clearly dominate the Great Plains, comprising over 95% of the total lakes. This paucity of chlorine-rich lakes makes the region unusual compared with other areas of the world. These factors make salt lakes a great source of salt, as well as a general mystery compared to other lakes. They provide a different sort of environment for a different type of animal on continents and provide salt and other elements and nutrients for humans to utilize.